lovelies, this is Blossom, and today we have the next tree in the Ioho, the yew tree or Ioho. And this tree is associated with the time of the winter solstice. The letter is I, the animal associated with it is eaglet or eagle, and the colors are very white, and there's also an association with dark green or black. So let's move into the lore and legends. Yew trees may well be the longest living trees on earth. We can find them often in churchyards, and some of them vastly predate the accompanying churches and are thought to be as much as 4,000 or 5,000 years old. They survived the modern era by their connection to these churches, themselves often built in places of local pre-existing spiritual significance. The oldest living thing in Britain is the Fortingal yew, which stands at the geographical centre of Scotland in Fortingal churchyard. This tree is estimated to be over 5,000 years old. It is thought that yew trees achieve such long lifespan via their constant regeneration. In Breton legend, the tree is said to grow a root into the open mouth of each corpse buried in the graveyard. This root is a symbol of rebirth, with the spirit reborn in much the same way as the tree itself is reborn. Morin refers to the yew as oldest tree, revealing a depth of practical knowledge we have lost. Yews were once considered to be the species of the great world tree, particularly in the heathen traditions and across the northern hemisphere due to its incredible lifespan. In Norse tradition, the world tree Yggdrasil is thought to have originally been a yew, although later Yggdrasil was considered to be an ash, perhaps signifying a cultural change to a more ordered and goal-orientated society suggested by the ash's magical qualities, as opposed to the yew's contemplative and meditative qualities, concerned with the balance between mortality and infinity. Yew provides a link between this world and the next, but not in the guiding and transitional way of the aspen. Instead, it represents that which lies beyond, the void that must be crossed between this life and the next, and a solid presence of the unknowable and inevitable that accompanies all our lives. Our lives are as mayflies in comparison to the infinite unfolding, as a fact both terrifying and reassuring. We may end, yet something, indeed everything, continues. Io signifies this awesome truth, and as such is associated with endings and beginnings, rebirth and mortality, the fact that death and life and the ever-turning wheel between the two are our only known certainties. Yew also grows upon barrow mounds and places associated with our ancient ancestors as markers of the world beyond and our eternal spirits. For this reason, yew trees were often planted on the graves of fallen lovers, and tales abound of the trees linking to two graves joining the soul in death. Legendary lovers Tristan and Isolde were reunited in their death by the yew, as were the Irish Deirdre and Noishu, whose separate yew trees were said to have grown over Armagh Cathedral to embrace. The yew also holds special importance at the festival of Samhain. It was burned at this day to lend protection and balance these energies, negotiating relations between the living and the dead. We can find the yew tree also mentioned in the lays of Fionn, known as the Lament of Fianna, which heralds the end of the legendary band of heroes. Fionn makes a prophecy. On Samhain's eve, in the Yew glen, that the faultless Fianna should depart, and that it should be an end of us tonight. Tonight it is an utter end. Other names for the yew were Spell of Knowledge and the King's Wheel. The King's Wheel referred to here is a special brooch worn by the kings of Ireland, passed from one king to the next, as a reminder that each king was part of a whole. The king's role required this knowledge and was a caretaker with responsibilities to future generations. It was a reminder that the wheel would always turn and that duty to the past and future should be paramount in the king's mind. The same could be said for all magical workers and wisdom seekers in the Celtic tradition, where the honoring of ancestors and the consideration of future generations is of utmost importance. This explains Ungus' word Ogham, associated with the yew, fairest of ancients, or pleasing consent. The duty of honoring our ancestors and looking to the future is required of us whether we undertake it or not. Yew can be seen to represent a total of all the other Ogham in the sense that all the lessons of the other 19 take a place beneath its edges. As it allows access to the infinite, it naturally reveals the next in between all things, time, space, and points of consciousness, the sum of all knowledge. And yet Yew's position reveals an innate paradox that whilst containing the ever-changing all, it itself holds a position of utter stillness and reflective silence. This is what Cuchulainn is referring to when he says Yew is the strength of the sick man, people, or an age. He is referring to the gift received in coming to terms with death and the endless movement of time, when it is realized that one's actions or errors mean little in the face of eternity. It is in being, not doing, that we learn to be truly alive. Now let's move on to the magical uses. Magically, the yew is used for summoning spirits and any other world communication. Robert Ellison said that the tree could be used in divination or in spells. The yew, he said, represented the ancestors, rebirth, death, and could be used for its powers to cast an arrow at great distance with strength. Although burning yew as an incense is still a traditional means for raising the dead, and thus in a sense entrapping them, you should burn it only outside because of its toxicity. With its connection to the underworld and infinity beyond, yew is used in all sorts of ancestral magic, as well as to protect against negative forces or unwelcome ghosts. A few leaves placed upon the altar or worn when journeying or invoking ancestral assistance can be very effective. But again, be very cautious, as all parts of this tree is very toxic. And I know the berry itself is not toxic, but the seed. So again, I just say everything is super toxic, just to be safe here. It should not be in contact with the bare skin for any length of time. So you can wear gloves or something if you use it. Yew wands are especially powerful, best to use from wood fallen from a tree with its permission and with whom you have already established a relationship. If you work with a yew wand, always oil or varnish it before use or wax it. The yew wand not only proffers the great knowledge of infinity and ancestors, it also may assist in contacting deep land-based ancestral lines, following in the very paths of the druids who walked the land before us. Alright, and now for the healing. The poison of the yew tree protects its powerful energies. It requires careful handling, as does our magical and spiritual work. Yew has been found to have some use in cancer treatments, but again, it must be said that herbally, yew has no place whatsoever in common use. It is just too dangerous. As a vibrational essence, this plant spirit ally of this most ancient of trees serves as a gateway that helps us to connect to the inner realms and our innate wisdom. It offers spiritual insights into our patterns, past and present, and connects us with the ancestors and with those who are still to come. Yew helps people to see that there is no sin in being both resilient and flexible, or indeed bowing before the storm. It also brings the discernment needed to assess accurately just what forces are involved in any particular situation. After all, only a fool will stand in the path of an express train. Yew helps people to become less proud of their own ideas and concepts, more open to new approaches and ideas, and break up the rigidity of outmoded patterns of thought and behavior. It helps people to come to the realization that the time has come to release attachment to someone or something that is holding them back. Like the irrepressible yew tree, they are pushed onwards to change, adapt and make choices, and that will allow them to be free to grow, expand and regenerate. It can assist in letting go of whatever is standing in the way of achieving your purpose. You can also help us to come to terms with our own death and find healing and solace in the realms beyond. It also helps balance of psychic burnout or times when our awareness has expanded excessively fast, leading to inflation, fear or mental illness. Know that this is not a tree to impose your will and wishes upon. Their benefit lies in its example in being rather than doing. It can also help with issues relating to grieving and aging, as well as helping to prepare the soul for the inevitability of death and the promise of rebirth. Now let's go to the last part, the divination meaning. You can indicate that you may tend to try and hang on, but now is the time to let go and to experience change as an ally and not as an enemy. Remember that nothing lasts forever. This concept will bring you ease. You will be experiencing change now and you need to accept it. When Io appears in a reading, it may be pointing you to older sources of information, whether stories from your elders, books of lore, or links drawn in previous lives. It challenges us to look at our past as we determine our future and to lay foundations of wisdom for the generations to come. It can indicate the permanence or endurance of a condition or situation that you have created or that has been forming around you. There are both positive and negative implications to this, and it may be that advice is needed from others who have gone through similar situations before you. The aspen may be seen as the tree of death and finality within the Ogham divination system. The yew, on the other hand, can be seen as the tree of rebirth. The yew does not simply represent change. However, the yew represents the rebirth that follows death. This is an important distinction. Often, death is fraught with a sense of loss, but the yew can teach us to see death as a form of transformation and that it is never final. Yew counsels patience and perseverance if either has been absent. Yet it also may suggest the need to rebalance the other way, seizing the day or the moment wholeheartedly, as if it were the last. In the Celtic tradition, the afterlife is a splendid, beautiful place full of wonder, joy and love. Finding this in the mortal world and the easing of difficulties is achieved through small, simple acts of progress and tenderness towards ourselves and others. It is our subjective experience that we have the most power to change, and peace is something that is therefore best thought within rather than without. You ask us to enter into silence and surrender to creation with joy. So, and that's it. That is everything for you. I hope this is helpful. And as I mentioned last week, this is the last tree of the Ogham, when we go the traditional way and only use the first 20 letters of the tree alphabet. However, I will also use the Fiechter, and I will still do videos for those 5 trees. Yeah, let me know, what do you think? I asked already last week, so what do you think of the Fiechter? Are you planning on using them as well in your practice with the Ogham? Personally, I am really looking forward to dive deeper into the Fiechter, as it is actually really confusing and there are so many possibilities, but I have chosen the trees that I want to use, and those are the ones that I will do my videos about. So maybe this is not like maybe it's not all the trees like in the oracles you can get, but it's just a bit my own system. So, thank you very, very much for watching. Much love and blessings, and bye-bye!